Without holding the Galaxy Z Fold 3 in one hand and the Galaxy Z Fold 4 in the other, you would be hard-pressed to say the design has changed. Even if you have both phones at your disposal, it's still tricky to pick them apart. Much like the Galaxy Z Flip 4, its clamshell-shaped sibling, the Galaxy Z Fold 4's external changes come down to a few millimeters here and there. More specifically, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 is 3 mm shorter and 2 mm wider than its predecessor when unfolded. When closed, there's no difference in width at all. It's also 8 grams lighter, though it's still a heavy boy at 263 grams. All of the buttons and ports are in familiar places as well. The capacitive fingerprint reader and volume rocker lie on the far right when open or closed, while the USB-C port is on the bottom edge of the right half when open. Over on the left half, you will find top-firing and down-firing speakers that create stereo sound. While the tablet-sized screen within remains the phone's central gambit, the outer display is where you will actually run most of your tasks if you are using the Galaxy Z Fold 4 on the go. The 6.2-inch external AMOLED panel remains tall and thin like a starting point guard. Despite having the same diagonal measurement as its predecessor, the shorter overall device height means that the bezels lost a little weight. The thinner bezels provide a few extra pixels of width compared to the Galaxy Z Fold 3, resulting in a mildly less skinny 23.1:9 aspect ratio, closer than ever to the dimensions of a regular slab phone's display and far nicer to use as a result. None of this impacts the cover screen's selfie camera position, which is front and center and surrounded by a small black ring. You can also feel the slimmer bezels on the internal display as the 2 mm trim comes courtesy of Samsung's reimagined hinge. The difference isn't massive, but the Galaxy Z Fold 4 is a story of little progress. If you have never used one of Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 devices before, and many haven't, the form factor will take some getting used to. I had no problems using it one-handed while folded, but it becomes nigh on impossible once you open the device. Wrangling the 7.6-inch huge in a single palm feels like holding a dish of ice cream and trying to spoon it into your mouth with the same hand. You might get a scoop here and there, but you will enjoy it a lot more if you are just eat it properly. Once you embrace the two-handed approach, you will find the easiest way to approach the Galaxy Z Fold 4's internal display is to use it as if you were using traditional Android tablet. However, tablets don't force you to muddy up a rear display with fingerprints. If you prefer to scroll and navigate with your right hand, as I do, you will end up with plenty of smudges on the cover screen when using device unfolded. They are easy enough to wipe off but can drive you crazy as you switch between the two modes. After getting used to the book-like form factor, it doesn't take long to really appreciate the might of the internal display. The massive panel's boxier aspect ratio makes it more square than ever, in turn more pleasant to use when immediately folded open in its portrait orientation. It can get a very bright at up to 1200 nits, and the color recreation is excellent. Meanwhile, the 120Hz adaptive refresh rate is delightfully smooth and can drop to as low as 1 Hz when viewing static content to reserve battery. Sadly, the crease in the middle of the folding display is anything but smooth. You won't glide your finger over it as much as you would with the Galaxy Z Flip 4's horizontal dip, but it's still there and it's still noticeable if you catch the light in the wrong position. While Samsung hasn't solved its crease problem, it has managed to hide one blemish on the book display. The under-display selfie camera is immediately less obvious than the Galaxy Z Fold 3's pixelated blob thanks to a new scatter type subpixel arrangement. The results from the camera remain fairly awful, and you will still notice it on white or light colored backgrounds, but it blends far more nicely into darker shades. Samsung's premium sandwich of materials means that the Galaxy Z Fold 4 is about as tough as a foldable phone can be. The Gorilla Glass Victus Plus outer display and rear panel combine nicely with the color-coordinated armor aluminum frame, while the ultra-thin glass internal display is more durable than before, according to Samsung. Samsung also claims it has applied improved adhesive to the necessary protective film that covers the internal display. We'll have to wait and see if this holds up over time, but in the meantime, just make sure you do not remove this screen protector, as you will immediately leave the entire display vulnerable to dust particles and potentially create air bubbles. The Ipx8 rating also returns, so the Fold can still handle water, but it's best keep far away from dust, though it will somehow still accumulate in the crease.